Today, I thought I would teach you how to string pearls. So I have a strand of, they're huge, kind of an expensive strand, and they needed to be restrung. First thing I did was I cut up all the old knots, and see all these old knots? I cut them off. Oop, there you go. I cut them off and I laid out my pearls. So when I was 26, my parents took me out to eat at a Hungarian restaurant, and I ran into a Hungarian guy, and he was pretty handsome. Even though he was 16 years older than me, he was really handsome. Baby blue eyes, dark hair, and he was from Hungary too. So one thing after another, we got married. And he was the salesperson for the eastern half of the United States for Mikimoto pearls. And what he did was he traveled around and sold beautiful, beautiful Mikimoto pearls. And he also restrung pearls occasionally, if they broke or if they had to, have an emergency restring or whatever. And after we got married, he tried to teach me how to restring pearls. But, he was 16 years older and he was not very patient. Anyway, we went to New York one time, and while I was sitting, he was in a meeting, and while I was sitting outside, I was talking to one of the Japanese girls, and I was like, I want to restring pearls. My husband at that time has no patience, and she was like, oh, come to our lab and I will show you. It's very easy. I said, okay. So in an hour, she showed me what my husband couldn't show me in like 3 months. Anyway, so what you do is you put these little holes, they're drilled. On this one's not drilled very straight. Anyway, so you put them on thread like this, and then what you do is you put knots in between each one. And during Christmas, we used to string strands and strands and strands for Mikimoto pearls. They would send us boxes of strands unknotted, and we would have to match up the pearls, because pearls are different colors, and we would have to match up the pearls and then string them, put clasps on them and string them for Mikimoto. And of course they paid us very well, but there were not very many stringers available in the United States, and so we did quite a few for them. And after I was pregnant, my husband traveled selling the pearls, and I stayed at home and strung pearls, like massive amounts of pearls. But anyway, so this is what I did when I was married, and we also taught my mother how to string, and she made quite a nice living off of that. She even sang until she was like 90 years old. So she did really good. And not just pearls, but you can string all kinds of beads and things, and so I'm going to show you how to put knots in between each one. And being that this is an expensive strand of pearls, I like to put a knot in between each one, just in case it breaks and the pearls roll all over. I only lose one. So anyway, I transfer them over, and this is a magnetic clasp. All right, so I have them on a thread like this. I have all kinds of threads going on, a needle in a thread and a transfer thread. And of course, I can show you this, and it takes months to learn, but anyway. So I have a little needle. I don't know if you can see this or not, but anyway, so And you'll probably get bored halfway down. So I'll pause it so you don't get bored, but this is what you do. And you know, when you have a 4mm or 5mm strand of pearls, there's like 60 pearls to a necklace. This is like 12 and 13mm, so they're huge, and it won't take that long to restring them. But I like to put knots in between. It just looks better. And like I said, if they break, I only lose one. All right, can you see what I'm doing? All right, let me pause for a minute while I go down to the end. So if you're not familiar with Mikimoto, Mr. Mikimoto, was the first one to come up with the cultured pearl. Back in I'm not sure, 1869 or 1889, something like that. But he was the first one that revolutionized the whole pearl industry. Because until then, I mean, you had to wait for a little piece of sand, you know, to be in an oyster to rub together to make a pearl. Well, he came up with a way where you can actually put the nucleus into the oyster bigger, you know, so that it doesn't take that long for the oyster to make a pearl. And of course, you know, not only do the oysters make pearls, but they make different color pearls. And so just because you have a strand of pearls doesn't mean that they all match. And when we were stringing pearls for Mikimoto, we actually had to match pearls, and that's just a different story altogether. So I have strung these, I put knots in between, and now I'm going to finish it. And of course, this looks easy, and it really isn't. I used silk thread, and I used F. They come in everything from 00 all the way to, I don't know, large, but I used F because I wanted nice, I don't know if you can see, but they have nice knots in between. All right, so now I'm going to finish this. And we went several times, and I met Mr. Mikimoto, the old man, and let me tell you, he was the sweetest guy ever. I have pictures of it somewhere, and I don't think he realized what he had done for the pearl industry, but yeah, he did it. And he was humble, even though he became a gazillionaire and his family became a gazillionaire. He stayed humble, and he loved the ocean, and he loved the sea, and he loved pearls. And the reason I don't do it anymore is because my eyesight is very bad, and I can't see to do it like I should. So, I mean, even though I have that big old light, it's just really hard to see, you know, when you get to be my age. Of course, my mom, she had her cataracts operated on, so she was fine. But me, not me. I actually had a business stringing pearls all over the country, and that's how I lived after I got a divorce. And I did it for a long time after I moved to Florida. I had several customers, and I did not only pearls, but I did all kinds of beads and things, you know, and get to the point where you can't see to do it. So this is what it looks like, all strung up. And now I just apply a little bit of glue to the end and cut that off, and it's good to go. I know it wasn't much of a lesson, but I hope you enjoyed it. See ya.